the eternal flame of control in every age. When the masculine spirit wavers between temptation and triumph, a single image rises above the noise. The mighty Hanuman, muscles carved in devotion, heart ablaze with purpose. He is not merely a deity of strength, but a living testament to the power of Brahmacharya, the discipline of mastering one's life force, the essence that fuels mind, body, and soul. While mortals chase pleasure and power through indulgence, Hanuman conquered both through abstinence. He turned restraint into energy, silence into thunder, and purity into strength. His story is not just ancient, it is eternal, whispering to every man who seeks mastery over his urges. The birth of divine energy, born of Anjana and blessed by the wind god Vayu, Hanuman entered the world as an embodiment of prana, the breath of life itself. His conception was no accident. It was the convergence of divine forces preparing a being who would show the universe what focused energy could achieve. Even as a child, his boundless vitality reflected the seed of divine restraint, an energy neither scattered nor wasted, but directed toward play, exploration, and purpose. In his eyes burned a curiosity that mirrored creation itself, yet beneath it pulsed calm awareness, a foreshadowing of the Brahmachari he would become, the seed of purpose. Every man carries within him a sacred current, the same current that gave Hanuman wings of fire and a heart of gold. In most, it leaks away through distraction and desire, but in Hanuman, it gathered and coiled, growing stronger with every act of control. His mother taught him humility, his father, discipline, and from both he learned that divinity is not gifted, it is cultivated. The seed of power, when guarded, becomes potential incarnate. That was Hanuman's secret. His ojas, the spiritual power born from preserved essence, was never wasted on fleeting pleasures. It was stored, refined, and ignited. The first test of retention legends tell that young Hanuman mistook the rising sun for a fruit and leaped skyward to eat it. That leap was no childish mischief, it was the first explosion of contained energy. Every atom of restrained vitality found expression in that single bound. Even Indra's thunderbolt could not destroy him. It merely awakened his divine awareness. When the gods blessed him afterward, they sealed within him the eternal power of restraint. The energy that might have been squandered in indulgence became a reservoir of strength that no storm could shake. The awakening of the Brahmachari years later, as Hanuman trained under the sages of the forests, his mind grew sharper than any weapon. He understood that strength without control is chaos. Through breath, meditation, and conscious celibacy, he tuned his body into an instrument of service. Each heartbeat was a mantra, each breath a declaration of dominion over instinct. Where others sought pleasure to feel alive, Hanuman withdrew inward and discovered an infinite source of vitality. His very presence radiated electric calm, the paradox of perfect stillness and limitless motion. Modern echoes of ancient power in the age of instant gratification. Men scatter their focus in seconds, losing their purpose to screens and seduction. Yet the image of Hanuman remains a mirror to what they could be. Focused, unshakable, and fiercely devoted. His Brahmacharya is not repression, it is channeling. Semen retention, in its purest essence, means holding one's creative fire until it forges something divine, be it strength, art, or wisdom. Hanuman shows that power is never lost, it is merely misdirected. When guarded, it becomes godlike. When squandered, it fades into dust. The discipline beyond desire. As Hanuman matured under the shadow of the Himalayan peaks, he came to understand that Brahmacharya was not a mere vow of celibacy, it was the conscious redirection of all primal impulses toward higher creation. Desire, he realized, was neither enemy nor friend. It was raw energy, waiting to be shaped. When left unchecked, it dragged men downward into exhaustion and confusion. When mastered, it became the engine of enlightenment. Hanuman's practice of Brahmacharya wasn't about denial, it was transformation. Every breath he took was a reminder that true power lies not in what one consumes, but in what one contains. The science of sacred energy, ancient sages taught that semen, the seed of life, is more than biological fluid. It is concentrated vitality, distilled consciousness, the divine blueprint of creation. To waste it carelessly is to disperse divine potential. Hanuman grasped this truth with instinctive clarity. His ojas Shakti, the radiance born from retention, became visible in his aura, strength, and intellect. Through meditation, he reversed the natural downward flow of energy, channeling it upward toward his brain and heart. His eyes gleamed with luminosity, his words carried force, and his actions reflected the focused thunder of an unbroken mind. The gods themselves admired this living science in motion, the forge of mind and muscle. Hanuman's training was rigorous beyond imagination. He would rise before dawn, submerge his body in cold rivers, and breathe with the rhythm of the wind, aligning his inner current with that of the universe. Each sunrise was a renewal of his vow, never to be slave to desire, never to spill the sacred fire of life in vain. As he mastered his senses, his strength multiplied, not merely physical, but psychic. He could move mountains because his mind had already moved the mountains within. His muscles were not built in battle, but in restraint. His power was not borrowed from food or fury, but from focus. The fire within there is a moment in every seeker's life when the energy within threatens to consume him. For most, it burns them alive through lust, anger, or addiction. For Hanuman, it became divine flame. That inner blaze, known as tapas, is what purified his being. Through semen retention and austerity, his life force ignited his nervous system into lightning, his mind into meditation, and his body into armor. When he sat in silence, even demons trembled, for they could feel the vibration of untamed potential turned inward. Hanuman had become the embodiment of living fire, untouchable, awake, and infinite. The test of the mind, but the gods, knowing the power of his vow, decided to test him. They sent distractions in the form of celestial maidens, each radiating beauty beyond mortal comprehension. Yet Hanuman's gaze did not waver. His eyes looked upon them not with desire, but with divine compassion, seeing not form but essence. His mind, fortified through years of Brahmacharya, remained anchored in stillness. Those maidens, upon witnessing his detachment, bowed in reverence. They realized that his strength came not from aggression, but from control. Not from dominance, but from self. His victory was not over them, but over himself. The silent thunder of devotion. From that day forward, Hanuman's celibacy became not a rule, but a living devotion. His energy no longer served personal pleasure, it became a weapon of divine service. His every act was guided by purpose. His every breath carried the vibration of Rama, the symbol of pure consciousness. Brahmacharya had elevated him from mortal to mythic, from man to embodiment of divine will. Through semen retention, he discovered not just strength, but clarity. His heart became a temple of unbroken focus, and his presence radiated such peace that even chaos bowed before him. The fire that never dies within Hanuman burned a fire that did not consume it, illuminated. This was the energy of Brahmacharya, refined through unbroken willpower. Unlike ordinary men whose desires flicker like candles, his light blazed like the sun, steady and unwavering. The sages say that retained seed becomes spiritual fire, and Hanuman embodied that truth. His every action radiated that contained voltage. His every word sparked courage in those around him. The gods had given him strength, but it was his restraint that made him divine. His was not the fire of destruction, but the fire of transformation, of flame that purified everything it touched. The call of purpose. The day Hanuman met Lord Rama was the moment destiny aligned with devotion. Rama was not merely a prince in exile. He was the embodiment of cosmic order, the very consciousness Hanuman had been preparing to serve. Their meeting was not chance, it was the union of divine potential and divine purpose. When Hanuman bowed before Rama, it was not submission, it was recognition. The energy he had guarded through years of discipline now found its direction. Semen retention had built the power. Devotion gave it purpose. Like a river reaching the ocean, his contained force now flowed toward divine service. Energy becomes action. Brahmacharya, without purpose, becomes stagnation. But in Hanuman, it became motion, pure, explosive, unstoppable. When he set forth to find Sita, his entire being vibrated with retained life. Each leap, each breath, carried the might of disciplined energy unleashed at the right moment. This was the secret of his flight across the ocean, not the laws of physics, but the law of focus. While others saw a vast sea of separation, Hanuman saw only opportunity. His semen retention had fused his mind and body into one unit of divine precision, and the result was flight, both literal and spiritual. The ocean within, as he soared over the sea, Hanuman faced more than external challenges. The demons that rose to stop him symbolized the inner distractions that plague every seeker doubt. Fear, temptation, pride. But each time one appeared, Hanuman's response was the same: stillness, strength, awareness. His years of Brahmacharya had sharpened his perception. He saw through illusion, through the veils of Maya, and stayed focused on his mission. The ocean beneath him was not just water, it was symbolic of the vast unconscious mind that most drown in. But Hanuman, through self-control, walked upon it effortlessly, for his seed had turned into light that guided his path. The power of sacred devotion. When Hanuman finally found Sita, his energy expressed itself not in desire, but in service. He knelt before her with humility and strength, speaking the name of Rama with reverence. His purity made his presence divine. His chastity made his words unshakable. Sita saw in him not a messenger, but the embodiment of Rama's will. His Brahmacharya had made him transparent to divinity. There was no ego left, only service. The energy that men waste chasing pleasure, Hanuman used to uplift, to heal, to inspire. Through his retention, he became a conduit of God's own power, not a slave to his senses. The weapon of controlled power. When Hanuman returned from Lanka, he came not as a mere messenger but as a thunderbolt of purpose. The demons of Ravana felt his presence before they saw him, for his energy radiated like fire contained within steel. When provoked, he unleashed that power, burning the golden city with flames, born not of rage but righteousness. That inferno was the outward manifestation of his inner fire, his semen retained, his energy pure, his will divine. Even the gods marveled. How could one being, with no desire, command such might? The answer lay in his Brahmacharya. He was proof that controlled passion is infinitely stronger than indulgence. The leap beyond limitations. When Hanuman prepared to cross the ocean to Lanka, the assembly of Veneras stood in awe. Many doubted the distance could be conquered. Yet Hanuman, silent and focused, closed his eyes and turned inward. The fire of Brahmacharya within him gathered like a storm at the core of his being. He wasn't leaping with muscle alone, he was leaping with energy that had never been wasted. The seed of creation within him, preserved and refined through years of discipline, became rocket fuel for the divine mission. His leap was not physical, it was symbolic of what every man can do when his energy is unified. He transcended limitation. The battle of the mind and flesh in Lanka, Hanuman faced forces meant to break the will. Demons offered temptations of wealth and women, illusions meant to disturb the Brahmachari's mind. But Hanuman laughed in the face of Maya. His strength was not vulnerable to beauty or gold, because his inner eyes saw through glamour into truth. The one who has mastered retention becomes immune to seduction. His pleasure is purpose. His ecstasy is discipline. When desire came to claim him, he consumed it with the fire of awareness. His control made him invincible. For lust cannot defeat a man who no longer seeks outside himself what already burns within. The flame that served Dharma when he set fire to Lanka with the tip of his tail. It was not destruction for vengeance, it was divine symbolism. The retained fire of his seed had transformed into purifying energy. The flame that burned the city was not lust, but the fire of Dharma burning illusion, not life. In that moment, Hanuman became the destroyer of ignorance. His chastity gave him not just strength, but moral clarity. A man who preserves his essence preserves his purpose. And one whose purpose is aligned with truth becomes unstoppable. Lanka's golden towers turned to ash, yet Hanuman's spirit shone brighter than ever. The mountain of life. During the battle of Lanka, when Lakshmana fell unconscious, Hanuman was asked to fetch the Sanjivani herb from the Himalayas. Without hesitation, he soared again across the skies, this time with even greater power. His Brahmacharya had made him a vessel of divine will. He could command nature because he had mastered himself. Unable to identify the exact herb, he lifted the entire mountain. That act was not brute strength, it was spiritual symbolism. The man who controls his life force can move mountains within and without. Retention had made Hanuman's energy boundless, his devotion fearless, and his service limitless. The silent strength of obedience, even with his unmatched might. Hanuman never allowed pride to contaminate his heart. His humility was as deep as his strength was vast. He never boasted of his feats, for he knew his power was not his own, it was divine energy channeling through a pure vessel. Semen retention had not only given him physical potency, but emotional equilibrium. The same energy that could destroy cities could also make him the most obedient servant. True Brahmacharya does not create arrogance, it creates stillness. Hanuman's silence after victory was louder than any roar, teaching that divine power must always remain guided by divine purpose. The return of the victorious spirit when the war ended and peace was restored, Hanuman did not claim glory or seek recognition. He returned to his meditative state, seated by the riverside, chanting Rama's name. His energy, still potent and contained, flowed now through devotion. The victory of Rama was also the victory of restraint over indulgence, discipline over desire, and purpose over passion. Hanuman remained untouched by fame or flattery. His essence stayed as pure as the wind that birthed him. The gods declared him immortal, not because of his strength, but because of his purity. For the one who guards his seed, guards his soul, and such a soul never perishes. Stay tuned. The next final chapter dives deeper into hidden power, forbidden desire, and ultimate transformation. What's coming will change how you see energy, willpower, and destiny forever.